What is up, everybody? Solomon here. I hope you guys are all having a fantastic day. As you guys know, within Genfinity, in collaboration with HashPack, we are nailing out multiple interviews across the Hedera Hashgraph ecosystem. And today, certainly a pleasure to have Justin Trollip, who is the self-imposed chief herder or the CEO and PM of Pangolin. What is up, Justin? How are you doing today?
Yeah, very well, Solomon. Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Definitely. To give everybody a background, I mean, on the site of Pangolin, what you guys have is that you guys are a multi-chain decentralized digital assets exchange through advanced tooling, deep liquidity, and smooth onboarding. Pangolin offering easy swaps and tools for both projects and creators. I'd like for you to kind of give your background of Pangolin, your background of yourself, and kind of how you came into Web3, and maybe just kind of a brief overview of what Pangolin represents from a value standpoint to the DeFi community as a whole.
Yeah, sure. So in terms of myself, so I come from, kind of traditional finance. I started off as, kind of like a management accountant working for Richemont, luxury goods brand. That does Montblanc, Cartier, all of those wonderful brands. And then I kind of quickly got bored of that, and I always wanted to be in IT, so I jumped into solution architecture with Microsoft, building enterprise solutions. The thing with that is that technology, even though it's widely adopted, is very, it's based on old standards. It's very frustrating. There's not a lot of innovation. So I quickly got bored of that, started a startup, sold, successfully exited, and always been interested in blockchain technology. When Bitcoin first came out, I mined it, obviously, like most people did, but like there was no real business way to get into developing applications, right? So Ethereum came around, and then I was like, okay, cool. Now there's an opportunity where, app builders could actually build something on top of these protocols. And then, slowly got into it. And then in about, was it 2020, just before the bull run started kicking off, DeFi summer kicked off, really with synthetics, and then with Sushi doing the vampire attack on Uniswap. And I was looking at a way to kind of come into the market, and then discovered Avalanche with the consensus mechanism. And at that stage, Avalanche had no EV, they had no real DeFi landscape. And Ava Labs actually released Pangolin as an internal project, and it was complete fair launch. So what that means is there was no token set aside for VCs, no insider tokens, no team allocation, but it was 95% LPs, 5% airdrop. And at that stage, I was working on a zero knowledge project on the EVM. And Ava Labs approached me and they said, would you be interested in taking over Pangolin? I said, yeah, I'd be interested. And then there was a community vote. So what happened with the community vote was, obviously you submit a vote on chain, and then all of the PNG holders get to vote you in. And I was voted in together with two other core contributors. And we've, kind of taken Pangolin from there. So in terms of what Pangolin brings, I mean, I think it's very much part of our ethos that we're community driven. It's part of the Genesis story. It's obviously, there's some pros and cons of every decision you make. Being community driven means sometimes we have to fight a lot harder to do things.
100%,
and that can be challenging, right? So like, especially in the early days, we got bogged down a lot about voting and things like that, and sometimes that made certain decision making slower. So we've had to kind of straddle this pragmatic middle ground whereby we're community driven, we really care about the community, we really want to contribute back. I think that's also a key thing for us. It's like, when we go to an ecosystem, we always like to immerse ourselves in that ecosystem and find out what's missing. As an example, that's kind of,
No, and I mean, I should say, so you guys launched in February 2021, and like you stated, incubated by Ava Labs, really to provide that, that credible DEX automated market maker solution on Avalanche C chain. And then even within the first year after launch, I know you guys had 15 billion in trading volume year one. And I think you were about to get into it, which I think is a really valuable thing when we're talking about decentralized exchanges. If you look at a network, by the way, for everybody listening to this, Pangolin is launching on Hedera Hashgraph. This isn't going to be coming out to you guys until the first week of January, but super excited. Now, you started getting into like what does the community need? So there's a few other dexes like that have launched on Hedera, I would say, over the past handful of months. I think it was really smart when you said let's look at trying to solve problems there. Do you look at these other dexes as competition, or is it more so co-opetition to try to build as much value for the network as possible and try to, you know, plug and play some solutions where Pangolin can help?
Yeah, I think that's a nuanced question. So I think it depends on, I mean, we always want to collaborate. You know, we always look to collaborate. We always think that like a rising tide lifts all ships. However, you know, it depends on other people, other projects' cultures too, right? So, for example, you know, like we've made projects in the past that were very anti-competition. So within that kind of environment, it's very hard to cooperate because the lines of communication, it's not an option. We always want to collaborate, right? So, you know, we don't see, you know, Salsa and Heli as competition. We see them as important steps. A DEX needs actually more than one, like a blockchain needs more than one DEX in the current place because you need the arbitrage volume, right? So you need that ability to kind of bring it, the tokens into peg. I think that's going to slightly change over time. You've seen Oracle type DEXs come into the ecosystem, which then kind of negate some of that long tail asset arbitration. But no, look, we want to make sure, like we look at, like you go look at Hedera's GitHub and we can see Heli's in there and they're contributing back, you know, they're reviewing PRs, we're in there, we're reporting issues back to Hedera. So the more people developing on Hedera, the more people are reporting issues. You know, there's a common thing in software, right? So if you want to build good software, you want it adopted by as many people as possible because they can see all the cracks. All the things that need to be kind of fixed or improved upon, and I think the more people in this ecosystem, the better. And dexes will go different routes. You know, some might go Uniswap v3 concentrated liquidity. Some might go the Oracle Dex route, which is now becoming a bit more popular. So Balancer as an example. So what you'll see is this natural divergence, and they'll fill different gaps in the market.
100%. Now, when we talk a little bit about what you guys have done so far as kind of network onboarding, and I don't want to say just blockchain because obviously Hedera is a Hashgraph, but from a network standpoint, what is live right now within Pangolin? What is going to be live, you know, would you say in the near future, obviously Hedera? And then how does that interoperability look to you from like a DeFi standpoint moving forward? Like through, you know, and I know you can only speak for Pangolin and who you guys are building with right now and how you want to extend that out. But, you know, what networks are you with right now that you've integrated? What's coming very, very soon? Obviously Hedera. And how do you see kind of a meshing or convergence of value between these ecosystems as the DeFi ecosystem really does mature into the next kind of cycle?
Yeah, so currently we're live on Avalanche and Songbird. Songbird is a canary network of Flare.
Yep.
We will be, so Flare launches their TGE on the 9th of January. We'll be live, I think, the next day pretty much on Flare. We've also got Near we'll be live on, and then yeah, obviously Hedera. So these are the networks. What we see, what's live, I mean, Hedera, we actually are live on Hedera's testnet. So all of our contracts are deployed already. If you go to, we have like a dev site called dev.pangolin.exchange. You go there today, you can play with pretty much everything. It's about 90% done. So what that means is we've got the AMM there, which is just based upon the XY=K automated market formula. We've got farming. So what farming means is you can become a liquidity provider. You can provide both sides of the token and then earn rewards for being a liquidity provider. We have staking. One other thing that is quite unique to us, where I don't think I've seen it anywhere, is we have a piece called Sunshine and Rainbows. And really what happens in DeFi is with governance tokens, they're used for emissions, right? To kind of bootstrap liquidity, to bring people in. What's happened is obviously because of this mechanism, you know, those tokens often get sold pretty rapidly in the secondary markets. So what happened is on Ethereum, a concept called V-tokenomics emerged, which was to allow more utility from a voting perspective. What that means is then V-tokenomics, though, introduced some interesting externalities which we didn't like, bribing, things like concentration of tokens in a very small percentage of people. So we've introduced Sunshine and Rainbows, which really kind of permeates throughout the entire deck. So when you become a liquidity provider, the way your rewards are calculated are based upon how loyal you are. So if, you know, say Solomon comes in and he's provided LP for like a week and I've been there for like 2 months, I'm going to earn significantly more rewards than you because I've left my capital there. And we've designed this to kind of combat the mercenary capital nature of crypto, and that's live too. We have governance contracts, which is on-chain governance. However, the UI probably won't be ready for go live, but the contracts are live and we just got to wrap the UI around it. And what that means is we'll have governance, which will allow token holders to vote on key decisions. You know, whether that's treasury funding, whether that's, you know, us upgrading to a Uni V3 model, you know, there'd probably be a bunch of things to be voted on.
I think that's, I mean, I think that's really smart. That was one of the issues that I've always kind of thought, you know, regarding DAOs, you know, in and of themselves, where it's, you know, if you get down into decentralization when it's based on governance, and if governance can be bought based on how much you hold, it's, I really like the kind of incentivizing good actors based on their actual actions within an ecosystem, how long they've been there. I think it's brilliant. So you touched on it briefly with the on-chain governance aspect. And so for those that may not know, I mean, you guys operate a sub-DAO model within any of the ecosystems that you've built out with. Can you explain that sub-DAO model a little bit as far as what that's going to represent within the Hedera ecosystem?
Yeah, definitely. So, you know, we see it like, so currently in blockchain, Hashgraph, within all these technologies, there's no kind of like, it's not interconnected, right? So what often happens is you have bridges, but bridges are kind of like, you know, they're an early stage of the technology. As we've seen, they get hacked. You know, you can only do token transfers. There's no like real interoperability where you have messaging and kind of mature stuff. So what that means is, you know, while we wait for the technology to catch up, we want to be competitive in the local ecosystems, and we want to immerse ourselves in those local ecosystems. So what that means is we compare often to Sushi. The way that Sushi went cross-chain is they kind of went cross-chain. They relied on grants from, you know, the ecosystem, and when those grants or liquidity incentives ran out, Sushi kind of left, right? And they took all that capital back to Ethereum, and we don't really like that model. We think it's quite, you know, yeah, I don't want to be too disparaging, but we learned a lot from that. So what we want to do is we want to obviously be competitive. We want to hire from within the community. So we have a new token on Hedera, and we have, you know, with that token, we can then hire people that are going to be focused purely on Hedera, that are going to really just immerse themselves, that they know the ecosystem. We know what we know, and you get economies of scale, right? So, you know, the technology is, with Hedera, it's slightly different because we had to tweak it a fair bit at this stage. But you do get these economies of scale that we've learned from other chains and other places that we can then kind of expand into Hedera with.